Hello everyone and welcome along to What the Ruck Happened, the series where we discuss what's happened over the last few days of the Rugby World Cup, and for a little bit of a change of things this time we'll be having a look at what is coming up in the semi-final action. That's right, there is just 4 matches of the Rugby World Cup left to go. We're going to have a look at the quarterfinals, the first 2 quarterfinals here in this piece, and then we'll have a look at the other 2 quarterfinals in another piece following this one, and we'll have a look at the semi-finals that these 2 quarterfinals have resulted in. So today we're going to have a look at South Africa up against Wales and New Zealand up against France, and the semi-final that will be played out between the winners of those 2 matches. So a bit of a change, a bit of a look forward as we get into the real excitement part of the Rugby World Cup. So sit back, relax, enjoy the discussions. Remember to have your say in the comments below as well as to what you think. There were so many talking points, especially in the second 2 semi-finals as well, but we'll get to them in the second part of the quarterfinal overview. First up, first things, we have South Africa up against Wales. Now this was a massive quarterfinal. Wales have looked so good, so many injuries as well. They finished second in Pool A and they're up against South Africa, who finished top of Pool B. This match at Twickenham, London, in attendance of just under 80,000 people. And when you look the occasion here, Twickenham, Wayne Barnes the referee, and although in matches past, if I seen Wayne Barnes, I would often give that thought of, oh dear, what is going to happen here? But I think Wayne Barnes, credit to him, has been one of the best referees in the World Cup. And well, if you've been tuning into these quarterfinals, you know referees are certainly one of those things on the attack list at the moment. But that's not for today's video. Anyway, Wales, South Africa, the matchup that would determine the first entry into the semi-finals. And this match, well, it was a great start that Wales were after. An aggressive start from the Welsh, and they were on attack right from the get-go and should have really scored right at the start. Width on the ball, numbers out wide. George North, a big break where he just shouldered through a few defenders before looking to play the ball in the offload, but the ball missing its target over the player's head and into touch. Oh, such an agonising start for the Welsh. They should have been in, and they should have been in to open up the scoring. The first chance was begging by Wales, but it was a massive start from the Welsh. They dominated everything in that opening little stanza, and that was really one of those things, you know, you're in a period, and you're in a area of attack, you need to take points. Wales didn't take points from that, and South Africa, they had to fight back, and they used it through the boot of Pollard, who was the man to open up the scoring. 3-0, then 6-0, before it was Wales again in the attacking territory, before finally getting points, their first of the match, making it 6 points to 3. But South Africa, it was a kickoff on at the moment, where Pollard was doing the same down the other end. Superb kicking by both the fly halves. It was 9-3. South Africa getting their lead back out to 6 points. But Wales have shown in this Rugby World Cup that they love to score tries, and one man who has done it against everyone, Gareth Davies, was in the action once again as Wales open up the try scoring through their scrum half. It was from the kickoff. The game had just got back underway after Pollard kicked South Africa back out to a 6-point lead, and the bomb coming in from the fullback of South Africa, going straight up into the air. Chase from the Springboks completely missed, completely ballsed it up. Bigger coming forward, taking a great take in the air, and then attacking the counter-attack from Wales. Exquisite. Gareth Davies finding himself with the final pass to scamper away for a phenomenal try. Wales, just what they needed, but they needed it a lot sooner. They got it eventually, and they took the lead back 10 points to 9. The scoreline went up to Wales with the lead, but South Africa weren't the team to sit back and watch. Pollard hit straight back, 12 points to 10. South Africa were back in the lead. As the half played on, both teams got a massive amount of chances to make decisive breaks and decisive point-scoring opportunities in the match, but just chance after chance after chance was blown, and it's something that would concern either side should they win this match is just how many opportunities to score that was blown by both teams. There was a massive amount of line breaks. Wales were playing with the passion of their lives, and they were playing amazing rugby. South Africa, as we know they can do, and as we've seen from them all World Cup, they're there or thereabouts, but don't seem to produce that final product. Wales was still finding themselves in this game, very much so, as the half wore down. Bigger had another shot at goal that could have put them back into the lead, but it come off the upright and went wide. So chances now off the tee were starting to go awry for Wales, but Dan Biggar made up for it with a great finish to the half, a drop goal that put Wales in front at the halftime break. A massive mental just hit to the Springboks, who looked like they were going in with a 2-point lead, just needed to get the ball out. But Dan Biggar, he's been such an inspirational figure for Wales. He slots the 3, and it is Wales who take a 1-point buffer, just 1 point into the halftime break, 13 points to 10. An amazing first half of rugby. Chances going every which way. The ball was flying. The line was getting absolutely destroyed, but still the defence kept holding on. The one try is all we saw from that opening half going to Gareth Davies. Fantastic try it was as well, but the second half had still plenty more to offer. Straight off the whistle, and South Africa were the first to miss a chance, a penalty that could have got back in the lead for South Africa was missed. But Pollard, not one to be outdone, was back in the action, getting a drop goal. This time back to the South Africans. That put them another 3 points ahead. Wales was still chipping the kicks over. It was end-to-end stuff. Penalties all over the show, and both teams reluctant to do anything but take the kicks. And can you blame them? The way this match was going, there was still 1 point in it as both teams exchanged 3-pointers. 16-15 it was, not long after the break. South Africa, though, continued to attack, and they were really camped in the Welsh half, but they just couldn't seem to make that vital break to score the try. And watching the match, you always seem to feel safe watching that Welsh defensive line. South Africa just did not seem to have the ideas, the power to break through this Welsh defensive line, and it looked like penalties and drop goals were ultimately going to decide this match. As the second half wore on, South Africa were still camped in the Welsh 22 in their half as well. All the ball, all the field territory, everything was going to South Africa, but they could not put the points on the board for a long time. Pollard finally got a penalty opportunity and duly slotted it, putting South Africa back up 18-16. But Wales were full of their game plan. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and Dan Biggar instantly gets his team back down the right end of the field and slots a reply. Another penalty. 19-18 Wales. The Welsh defence still remained firm, unmovable, unbreakable. South Africa could not find a way through. It was nothing short of an epic encounter between these two teams. The turnovers were flying. Wales were clearing their line. South Africa attacked. It was just end-to-end stuff. Defensively, Wales were fantastic. South Africa did a lot of the attacking, but they just seemed to not be able to break this such tight defense until very late in the match. The 76th minute of the game. Oh, what a time to score a try. And who else would it be but Fleury de Preer, the captain for the Springboks, scoring, well, what you could describe as a clutch try in the dying moments of the game. Scrum feed in the 22 of Wales. We've seen it in this half multiple times already, and Wales easily have dealt with every threat. South Africa don't look like they're going to trouble the scorers with the ball over the line, but this time Vermeulen took it off the base of the scrum and he went for a bit of a scamper. Somehow Wales didn't account for the 8-9 off the back of the scrum down the blind side, which is exactly what they happened. He takes on the one defender. The flankers coming across could not cover in time for the player to run all the way into the corner and score what would ultimately be the match-winning try for South Africa. It was really a soft let-off for the Springboks and a really bad way for Wales to win this match that was so tight, so fiercely fought out between these two sides to end it with a tame try, well-worked try too by South Africa. But it did look just a real abysmal finish to the game. Wales, from that point on, we've seen them fight back, but they just couldn't seem to do anything at the end. They were throwing all the desperate chances, but South Africa was the side now, after attacking for a good portion of the second half, that they could rely on their defence, and they did hold out to finish an amazing match. Easily, I think, one of the best games of the Rugby World Cup so far. South Africa and Wales, an absolute amazing matchup. Wales, I feel sorry for them. They did eventually go down 23-19 by just 4 points. Just 4 points. And already I've seen many comments about people saying that these quarterfinals were few of them, 2 or 3 of them, were the best games of the Rugby World Cup without question. I think South Africa-Wales was one of those games. I feel sorry for Wales. Dan Biggar got substituted just before that try was scored with about 8 minutes to go. He looked absolutely fuming. I've never seen someone that angry and that determined in his own self that he felt he was the one who was going to lead Wales to victory. And given his performances over this World Cup, you cannot argue with the man. I think that may have been a bad call from Gatland to bring Biggar off. Sure, Priestland is not a bad player, but I think that Biggar really needed to stay on the field. He really did solidify that team in a big way. He come off, he was absolutely distraught, and Wales conceded that try. It all went to hell very quickly, and they ultimately lost the match. Do you put it down to Biggar coming off the only thing? No, definitely not. But that sight of him walking off, shaking his head, swearing under his breath, it did sum up that final 10 minutes for Wales for me. But a phenomenal game, an amazing matchup. I think Wales have punched far, far beyond their own weight, what they should have achieved, what you'd expect them to achieve. They have gone far, far further, and I think they should have ultimately won that game against South Africa. South Africa have been very, very, what's the word to describe their performances? Have been very intermittent, very unstable. They've been great, and then they've been absolutely horrible. I mean, look at Japan. They look but better than that. Obviously, that was a long time ago, but they still have that frailty for good portions of the match. They can imagine a good team like, even Wales. Wales did it for a good part, but they just didn't have that full 80-minute performance. But I mean, New Zealand, Argentina, the way they've been playing, Ireland for even that matter, Australia, the possibilities that they could easily account for those little lapses in the South African 80 minutes that could prove to be very, very deadly for the Springboks heading into the semi-finals. But they got the win. They did what they need to do, and ultimately that is what wins Rugby World Cups. They've won it by 4 points, and they are the first team into semi-final number 1, and they will be taking on the winner of New Zealand versus France. Now, I know a few of you guys who watch my videos are from France, and I have to question you guys right now, what on earth happened to France? Now, if you tuned into this match, she was a massive scoreline, and I mean, the All Blacks played very, very well in this game, but France completely capitulated after, half-time. To be fair, they were still in this match just after they scored their try before half-time, but they really just completely lost their marbles as the match wore on. So this was, this had all the media hype going on about it. Quarterfinal, Millennium Stadium, New Zealand versus France. 2007, almost identical replay for when the French stole that win. A massive upset that, let's be fair, anyone living in New Zealand will know that we have harboured that for 8 years, looking for something to release those demons of Millennium Stadium in Cardiff 8 years ago. I mean, 2011, there was a different kettle of fish. I mean, that was at home, that was close still, but it just did not dispel those ghosts of Cardiff. Now was a chance to really get rid of that memory of France beating the All Blacks in Cardiff. And the French, again, you can't take anything away from them. They're a good enough side that they could have possibly won this match. But, well, let's take a look at what happened here, because it was absolutely abysmal from the French. They were playing in the red kit, and, yeah, I don't know why. I don't think black and blue is really that different, especially the lighter shade of blue that France generally play in as well. It's not very much like black, but they chose to play in the red. I guess there's a good distinct difference. I mean, New Zealand played in the grey in 07, and, well, how well did that go for the All Blacks then? New Zealand were the ones who were off to a flying start, and I think that's exactly what they needed to do, because they know that France is a team that plays very much on confidence, very much the passion. You know, if they're in the match, they are in the match, and you can expect that if they're around this game in the hour mark, that they will continue to lift. If they're out of the game by then, well, what will happen is what exactly did happen. Dan Carter was the first one in for the scoring. He put over the first penalty of the match that gave the All Blacks an early lead to kick things off for New Zealand, but it was matched by Spedding, who put in an amazing kick from almost the stadium next door, over halfway, a massive penalty from miles away that just sailed easily over the posts. It was 3-3. And a predictable start from these two sides. But there was one moment that really changed the mood of the match very, very early on as well. A try going to New Zealand, going to Brodie Retallick, a charge down of the Michalak kick. And I mean, man, he did motor a big charge down. Now, Retallick is a massive unit. He is one very tall man charging down the kick of Michalak. But then the ability and the speed and the awareness from a big second rower like that to chase that ball and keep the defence at bay for a good 20-25 metres as he scampered over for the try. The All Blacks were in for number one, and they were well on their way. But that kick that was charged down by Retallick also meant a very, very bad looking injury to Freddie Michalak, who hobbled his way off and since has retired from international rugby, which I think is a massive shame. Freddie Michalak, a horrible way for him to go out. One of the French greats, I think. A real magician of the old school, a Carlos Spencer style kind of player. Probably not quite as silly as Spencer was, but still had that ability, that X factor to really explode something out of nothing. So Michalak was gone. I think that killed off a bit of the French as well. A bit of their ability to do the amazing was lost when Michalak made his way off. France had a couple of chances to add some more points to their tally. Morgan Parra added one from a fairly handy position to make the score 10-6. France still in this match. But then, something that really must have affected Parra as he missed an absolute sitter from right in front, the kind that you just don't watch because you expect it's going to go over a player of Parra's ability. You just expect these kicks will just, float over, no problems. But no, it was a miss from right in front, and that really could have given the French a chance to go within a point. But the All Blacks, they hit back instantly after that. Nehe Milner-Skudder, I mean, one of the best newcomers to an All Black jumper this year. Massive hands through the back line. I mean, these passes between Conrad Smith and Ma'anonu to Nehe Milner-Skudder, they were just 1 second touch flick passes through the back line. Offload to plenty are just fantastic to watch. Milner-Skudder has an absolute deadly step off his right foot, left the defenders for dust, put on their burners, the acceleration, and a tight little gap between a couple of defenders shows he's got the speed. But I mean, what a step to come back on the inside, completely wrong foot. The cover defence that was switching across, it was just fading across, wrong-footed them completely. A magnificent display from Milner-Skudder, who put the All Blacks back up to an 11-point lead, 17-6 a score at that point. The All Blacks got a bit of another injury scare, although not one they'll probably be too concerned about. White Crockett made his way off at the 28th minute. I mean, the props seem to be the area of concern for the All Blacks now, not for their performances, but for injuries, as now Crockett and Woodcock seem to have picked up injuries. Crockett is 50-50 at this stage whether he's going to be good to go for the semi-final. But New Zealand was showing that they have the game to beat anyone at the moment. Their line-out jumping, superb. France were winning none of their own ball, which is a massive thing. New Zealand isn't known for its amazing line-out abilities, but they were on song against France, turning over most of their line-out ball for the whole entire match. Then one thing happened that really changed this match. Julian Savea. The first time we'll mention his name, but do not worry, it's definitely not going to be the last. A piece of Dan Carter magic, offloads and passes that the dreams are made of. Carter eventually breaks the line, pulls off a massive offload, an amazing offload as well, to give it away to Julian Savea, who showed that he's not all about power, that the bus has a turbo at the front. He motored away, showed some of that speed that you really haven't associated with Julian Savea for quite some time. An easy finish for a man of his speed really showed that he's still got that toe for a winger to go with his power. That was the first real punching hit from Savea and the All Blacks, and that put the French in a whole world of trouble on the scoreboard. But they were not to be outdone just yet. Louis Picamoles was the one to get France back in the game, and possibly, you could fairly say, was their best player over this match, apart from one little indiscretion early on in the second half, which we'll cover very soon. But the French, after they conceded that amazing try for Savea, did have a good amount of time in possession, and they kept hold of it, they used it well, and they got a bit of luck to go their way. A loose pass that kind of bounced its way out towards Picamoles, and a couple of All Black players did dive towards the ball. Picamoles got a lucky bounce that sat right up in his arms. These players dived for the ball, completely missed it, and opened up a massive gap for Picamoles, who, let's be fair, is a hard man to stop regardless. He barged his way through some desperate defence to charge over for the French try, their first try of the match. And you got to say that was a fortuitous opportunity, but to have the ability to make something of it was what Picamoles can do, and he was good for the match. Always going over the advantage line, getting forward ball, getting momentum on the front foot for the French. It's a shame that his other partners in the forward pack couldn't really replicate what Picamoles was doing. Now, Savea's first try started to shift the momentum of the match to the All Blacks. His second try, well, it certainly completely smashed it back towards the All Blacks. Possibly one of the greatest World Cup tries that has been continuously compared to Jonah Lomu's great try against England. 95, if I recall correctly, that one was running over the top of Mike Catt. I mean, that stuff is absolute, like, rugby Bible stuff. You know, it's a thing as a rugby fan in New Zealand, especially that sight of Lomu and the Keith Quinn commentary barging over the top of Mike Catt. I mean, that is the stuff that legends are created from. This try from Savea has been compared to the greatness of that play from Jonah Lomu. I mean, this was almost as spectacular. Just throwing these players and bumping these players off the French defenders, just getting the big shove going forward, bundling them out of the way, throwing them to the side, smashing through the tackles. Oh, an absolute joy to watch, with power behind Julian Savea, destroying about 5 defenders to score an absolute thunderous try that was all created by a kick return, a counter-attack from the All Blacks, one of the most deadly counter-attacking sides in international rugby. And when you got a finisher that just rips through defences, I mean, Spedding just got absolutely squashed. Not many can defend that in that kind of form. I mean, Savea's been average for quite most of the season, you have to say, would be fair, but he has played his way back, and He looks in ominously good form, heading in to when it really matters for the All Blacks. They called half-time, and the All Blacks were ahead 29 points to 13. The French still weren't out of it. A couple of quick plays straight after half-time could find themselves in this match once again, but it was looking fairly ominous. It was going to depend on the French headspace to how they would get back in this game. The All Blacks are still dominating most of the set-piece plays. Lineouts especially were getting easily stolen from the All Black jumpers as well. France were losing that momentum. They were losing that commitment that you just need to have. You need to as a requirement for international rugby. Another little blight on this game for the All Blacks. Milner Scudder seemed to go off with a bit of a knock, is holding his upper chest kind of shoulder area. Seems to be okay and will look to be okay to start for the semi-final as well. Hopefully for the All Blacks as well, going into the big match semi-final, which we'll cover in a second. The ref, though, was starting to lose composure as Pickamoles was the man sent to the bin. Of course, you have to have a yellow card in almost every single game. So it was a big number 8 who was sent to the bin, not punching Richie McCaw, but he was pushing a closed fist into his face. I mean, isn't that the definition of punching? That's what it was called by Nigel Owens. I mean, what else can you call it? It's a pretty much a punch, but a yellow card all the same. Given the circumstance of this match, it was, probably going to be null and void anyway, the way it was going. But it just gave it that nasty feeling about the French. Why do they have to resort to this kind of thing? It's never going to help them, even if he got away with it. What good did that do to helping the French? McCaw got a bit of blood. We've seen that every single time he runs out on the field. What's the difference for today's match against, France and the All Blacks? Completely pointless and disappointing as well from the French. I thought they played a pretty decent match in terms of their composure, in terms of, keeping in with the rules and not doing anything silly up to that point as well. So now with the man advantage for the All Blacks, they look to attack even more than they were already, and you have to commend players like Ben Smith, Ma'anonu, Dan Carter, Jerome Kaino. I think were all outstanding for the All Blacks in this match. They were dominating this fixture. Ben Smith took a couple of high balls that they just don't compute to actually being caught. The way he took them, the security of the ball, and the lack of regard for his own body as he went flying around the field. Outstanding. Ma'anonu was an absolute handful. Dan Carter back to his best. I mean, it's magical to see Carter playing this well. Can he make it to a World Cup final? He hasn't done it yet. Is 2015 going to be his year? Jerome Kaino, too much power. They couldn't handle the big man on his big bulldozing runs through the forward pack as well. All in all, the All Blacks were just dominating every aspect of the French game, and things really started to get a little bit messy after this point. The first try of the second half going to Jerome Kaino with good hands, catching the ball, numbers out wide, clinical finish. Then Julian Savea got back in the action now with his hat-trick try. Number 3, that all started from Dane Cole stripping the ball from the attacking French player on halfway. Carter wide to Savea, showed a huge array of speed once again and just burned all the way home. I mean, we talked about his speed and pace earlier. We've seen it in a big way here where he had a good distance to run as well. And he absolutely nailed it. Too much speed for the likes of Spedding. Although his name suggests he's quick, he wasn't quick enough for that one. And the All Blacks are in once again. The onslaught didn't stop there. Kieran Reid goes over a massive hole close to the line. Through goes Charlie Faumuina. The offload to Reid from about 20 metres out. And the rest is history. Kieran Reid trundles on through. Simply offload city is all you can say. They were dominating it. You can't tackle when the ball just gets offloaded. You've got to stop the offloads. France weren't doing that, and the ball was just getting offloaded and kept alive, and eventually France were running out of defenders where the ball was travelling to. But the tries and the offloads didn't stop there. Torreira Carvalho goes in for the 8th try for the All Blacks. Once again, offloads are plenty, numbers out wide, the inside running player. It's just, basic stuff, but when you do it well, you hold on to the ball, you manipulate the defences like the All Blacks were doing, you score fantastic tries. Caballo gets in with number 2 as well. Joe Moody this time with the offload. Infield going to Caballo, a double. And he was only on the field for a good 10-15 minutes as well. What can you say? I was completely lost for words from that match. 9 tries to 1. A record loss for France. Records for the most points scored in a knockout match of the Rugby World Cup. What a statement. France were out. They were gone from the World Cup. But the biggest statement of all, I think, was that France kicked the ball out. Now this, although you may not think anything of it in the end, but that is an absolute surrender. That is the highest compliment of surrender you can ever think of. The scoreline at the end was 62-13, but when you're ahead by that, France are on their own goal line. I guess they didn't want to concede another try. What a match. The All Blacks so dominant. And after we've seen them just amble their way through the group stage, they got a bit of a test against Argentina, who I think is probably equally the best team at the Rugby World Cup as well this year. I mean, they've just bundled their way through. They've come up to what could be a real crunch match against France, and boy, they've absolutely pulled our finger here. They have stormed and destroyed the French at Millennium Stadium. What an occasion. I'm lost for words about this match as well. 62-13, 9 tries, record points, record defeat for France. It's exactly everything that All Blacks fans wanted from this game. So that sets us up for 2 out of 2 from the Southern Hemisphere. Up against the All Blacks will be South Africa. That is semi-final number 1. So just quickly, my thoughts on what's going to happen in this semi-final number 1. I think that the All Blacks, based on that performance and how they've travelled, their consistency, their composure, their ability to look like they actually have a game plan, to know what they're doing, to know what they're working towards, the ability to execute. I mean, handling errors from the All Blacks were nearly non-existent from that match against France. South Africa, I think, are still looking a bit shady, and they're going to have to really pull a big, impressive improvement from their previous performances. I mean, there's in their group stages, they played some good rugby, but they have not yet played their ultimate performance. They have not yet played what you expect from them at home against the All Blacks. I mean, in those massive matches for the Rugby Championship we see in South Africa versus New Zealand, you know they're going to be absolutely monumental. I'm expecting this semi-final to be monumental, but the way New Zealand's played when they really got the tester against France, the way South Africa seemed to just drift through their matches, massive pressure against them from Wales, they just found a way to get through. They don't look the complete package. I think the All Blacks definitely look the complete package, but the pressure on the All Blacks now is to do that again. Now that's pretty hard ass to do that again, and then do it again for a final should they make it, but that's their pressure. They need to replicate what they did against France, they need to do it against South Africa. If they can do that, they'll win. It's been said quite a lot, I've seen it in media, if the All Blacks perform against South Africa like they did against France, no one will stop them. There's no team in the world that could beat New Zealand playing like they did against France. They were just that good. South Africa is a team that, given the way they can play, if they play to that level, not many teams can beat them either. But I think big things need to be remembered about the other side of the pool. I mean, we'll talk about them in the next video, but Argentina, a team that we've seen this year, this season, are good enough to play at that level that any which day they turn up, there's not many teams that could beat them. I mean, the way they played against South Africa earlier in the Rugby Championship, where they beat them, they actually smashed them. Imagine that Argentina playing this New Zealand against France. I mean, that's rugby heaven right there. That will be an amazing match. Even South Africa playing how they do at home, if they can muster that against the All Blacks in the semi-final, it's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. I think the All Blacks will win it. I think they've just got too much of an 80-minute performance for most teams in this World Cup. South Africa need to play the full match, and they need to play it at a high level. They need to massively improve. I know they can. They're good enough to do it, and I think playing the All Blacks will definitely lift South Africa as well, as it seems to against everyone, except for France this year, which just got absolutely swamped. The All Blacks are going to struggle to replicate that again. South Africa will lift. I think it could be a very close matchup, but I'm picking New Zealand to win it by 13 points. That's my call. Going out on a limb, All Blacks by 13, semi-final, number 1 over South Africa. 13-18, I'll even give it a spread. I think the All Blacks are going to do it close for 60 minutes, and they'll blow it home at the end, possibly ruined by a Springbok yellow card for something ridiculous as well. But that is my prediction. I think that's what it's going to come down to. The lift of South Africa versus the consistency of the All Blacks. Can they keep that pressure up? If they keep that level up, they'll win it easily. South Africa, they have the pressure. They need to improve against what they did against Wales. It is going to be an absolute cracker. I'm interested to see what everyone else thinks as well. So let me know your predictions for semi-final number 1 in the comments below, as always. And I'll be back again very, very soon for a look at the other 2 quarterfinals and semi-final number 2. We have, of course, Ireland versus Argentina and Australia versus Scotland. Plenty to talk about in that second match there, Australia and Scotland. I'm sure you've all got your own opinions on that, but that will be very much closely following this video as well. So stick around and stay tuned for that. I'll see you all next time for that look at those other 2 quarterfinal matches. But until we meet again, thank you for tuning and watching. Hope you enjoyed this little discussion video. If you've got something to say of your own, remember to put it in the comments. Let me know on Twitter as well. We always have some good debates going on Twitter. A lot of rugby fans following on there, having some great discussions about certain things. So let your thoughts know on as well. And I'll see you on Twitter and in the comments. As per always, thank you for tuning and watching. And I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.